Tuesday night, everybody. Chris McDonald with you on a McFiles Tuesday. We're so grateful to have dear friends with us, and we're grateful to have Andi Buerger back. Voices Against Trafficking. She is a good friend of Eric Kieran, but I will not hold that against her. I will not hold that against her at all. We were talking about that before the show, but I want to just thank her for being with us tonight. Buddy, it's so good to see you. We got a very serious topic to talk about, and I was looking at your website before the show, and very impressive what the work you guys are doing to keep us informed about this all-important subject. We've got the Super Bowl coming up this weekend, and we're going to talk about how that plays into this, what y'all are doing, because as you was telling me, this is probably one of the most largest social events in the world where trafficking is done probably the most. We'll let you talk about all that tonight. But before I become a bad host, which Karen accuses me of being all the time, good to see you tonight. Welcome to the McFiles. Won't be your last time. It's good to see you tonight on the McFiles Tuesday night.
Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Glad to be back in the McFiles. I thought maybe y'all have forgotten me.
No. We have not forgotten you. We're grateful for you, and we hope that it's many more times. We've just been, our schedule, the whole couple of years, there's just been a lot of, you know how shows go up and down, and we've had our little storms, but we're back on track, and I think this is going to be a great year. I'm really excited about the guests we've got coming, including you. Andi, I want to, first of all, talk with you about, a lot of people may or may not know you because our audience has changed as it always does through the years, and there may be some people out here that don't even know who you are. I want you to tell us a little bit first tonight about your organization and what y'all do and the awareness that you try to bring to the nation about this. And as I was telling you before the show came on tonight, and you can address this, when President Trump came into office the first time, this issue was at the forefront of his agenda. I don't know too many speeches that he gave during those first 4 years that did not involve a promise that they were going to cut down on human trafficking, and he did. He held to that promise, and he did a great deal. I'm not saying that that's changed in the second term, but you don't hear as much about it as we did the first. And I think Tom Holman has had a lot to do with that in a good way, because I saw a figure yesterday, 146,000 kids have been rescued in the first year. It's amazing from the Biden administration.
Fantastic.
300,000 kids went missing during the Biden years, and we've recovered 146,000 of them, many of them which were being trafficked by cartels and God knows what else. So tell us a little bit about Voices Against Trafficking, how all this plays into this, because this is still, we need to make it clear tonight. I really want to leave this show tonight with our audience understanding this spurge or purge or whatever you want to call it, this deadly attack against our kids and women and men, women, children. It don't have a barrier here tonight. It's still ongoing and raging. It's very dangerous, and it's still out there. All right.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, Voices Against Trafficking is dedicated to obviously ending human trafficking and sexual exploitation of any human being, regardless of age, stage, culture, socioeconomic status, gender, any of that, because humanity is human, and that's what we're about. And so as far as we're kind of like the hub of a wheel, Chris, so we're the hub, and then each spoke of the wheel is an individual like yourself, or a media member, or a legislator, or an organization, a company, another nonprofit. And so the more spokes that we get in that wheel, the stronger the wheel is, the further we can go and continue our movement that we started about 6.5 years ago now. We launched on Capitol Hill. We had over 200 attendees for that launch from all over multiple countries, lots of media from Mexico, the U.S., people that said, hey, we want to be a collective voice against human trafficking because we will be able to be more powerful. So that's what Voices set out to do originally. Now, a lot has happened in those 6.5 years, but for those who don't really know me, why I'm passionate is because I also survived 17 years of child sex trafficking from ages 6 months to 17 years old in the early 60s. And by the time I was 5, that was my first attempt at suicide. But, God met me on that curb of my house before I could jump in front of a car. And for better or worse, I made it through. The last time my birth mother tried to kill me, I was 17. So, fast forward to now, many decades later, and I have the honor and the privilege of trying to educate and inspire and create greater awareness for our national community, your neighborhood, my neighborhood, inner city, rural, doesn't really matter. Because we know, Chris, that every 40 seconds in the United States, a child 18 years or under is being abducted or lured into something that looks safe, like maybe a summer job, or hey, come help me out. I need some help with my kids, babysit, whatever that is. So our goal is to create greater awareness, and in doing so, we give people the education they need, because a lot of folks simply are like, I don't even know what to do, right?
Right. No, I'll agree.
Yeah. And so we help them figure out what to do. Like one thing very simple today, right now, while they're listening or right after, is they can go to our website, voicesagainsttrafficking.com, and put the numbers, the helplines and hotlines we have there in a tab in their phone, whether it's for suicide prevention or child abuse prevention or human trafficking. I suspect that there's something going on. I don't know who to talk to. They're safe numbers, they're neutral numbers, so you don't have to worry about somebody finding out that you called in your neighborhood, right? We want people to feel comfortable. So the awareness, the educational tools, we have 3 books out, we have 3 magazines, we have a music CD, and we are doing some events that are very exciting this year, so we can talk about that sometime.
Yes.
But those things are all geared to people that listen more than they read, or people that want to read short chapters like we have in our book, or they want to read a story. We have all different things to help them fit their learning style, so to speak, their awareness style. And then after that, of course, awareness and education leads to prevention, which is the only way to solve human trafficking.
On scale of 1 to 10, how has this? Well, let me. It's not a political question, but it's got to be the elephant in the room. Is this? Look, the Trump administration made a priority to go after all forms of this. Is it fair to say that outside of Trump, has there been any president that you can remember since you've been doing this and since you've been involved in this that has done more to try to stop trafficking than President Trump? It sure wasn't under Biden. Biden let this illegal alien invasion that has come across this border. These cartels have been nothing but doing that and trafficking these kids, selling them as just human. It's just like a eBay line.
Exactly.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's just been ugly. But has President Trump done, I think, enough as you see it? Has he done more than most presidents have tried to do? Because I've never heard, before he came into office, to be frank with you, Andy, if you would have come up to me and said, Chris, what do you know about trafficking? It would have been 0. And I've got a friend down in Texas, Andy Louderback, who invited me to a conference in Texas back in 2019, 2020. And it changed my life that day, because he said, you need to come listen to this. And they were stories about what was going on. And he told me, he said, this is rampant down here at the Rio Grande Valley. And he said, but it's not just the Rio Grande Valley, it's all over your country. And you're not being told that it's all over the country. It's just, people think it's isolated at the border, and it's not.
No, absolutely not. Any place there's a port, of entry, trains, planes, automobiles, the whole deal. The people are shipped in containers, things like that. But to your point about administrations, I cannot recall any other president from the top. I've been voting since the early 80s that had made it such a priority. In fact, his first term, they had captured almost 6,000 human traffickers. And you saw stories from the U.S. Marshals all the time. Hey, we rescued kids. We had this sting. Law enforcement agencies were working together at that time. I think for a lot of different reasons right now, the first year after any, administration change, we have, from my perspective, a huge mess to clean up, because once you open any border in any country that allows you to do whatever you want to whomever you want, that is chaos, and chaos kills. It really does. So Now we've rescued almost half, or found almost half of those 330,000 kids, but they're not the only ones that are missing. There are a lot of adults that came over that were also sold. A few years ago, the price for a child at the border, once they got over the border, was around $3,500. And you could do whatever you want with that kid. And so, if we didn't have the demand, we wouldn't have anyone supplying it. That's basic business for anybody out there. No demand, no supply, right? So no
Right.
money.
Right. That's true.
And
Boy, $3,500.
yeah,
Andy, is it fair to say is it all sexual? When you say trafficking, I know people their mind goes to the sexual trafficking, but I'm aware of some situations that happen. There's a young lady that I knew not really personally, but it's been over 10 years ago. But I was aware of her situation, and she had reached out to me, and there was nothing I could do about it. But she was not really being sexually trafficked, but somebody had basically taken hold of her family,
hmm,
and they had sent her from Indonesia and sent her to London, and she was basically a maid in this guy's house. But
yeah,
it was almost close to her being held against her will, and they were working her almost 20 hours a day. I mean, this was ungodly, and I lost track of her, but I mean, she told me many times. She says, "I don't know what to do," and I said, "Well, you need to get a hold of the authorities," and she was scared to. But I think
of
people get this
course.
idea it's just sex trafficking. It's domestic trafficking. It's all sorts of forms. And I wish you'd talk about that because
Sure.
when we say trafficking, we're talking about a gamut of things
Right.
that people have happened to them. Am I correct?
You're correct. So let's start from the beginning. The umbrella term human trafficking involves a number of things. At the base is uh, I coerce you to do things you wouldn't ever want to do, and I threaten you, I intimidate you, whatever it is, I do, and I do that for money. So whether it's for sex, for labor, for debt repayment, a lot of times that's the issue. It kind of sounds like your friend might have been in that situation. Hey, I'm going to send you to another country, whether it's the U.S., England, wherever, because you'll have a better life there. You're going to work for this nice family and everything, right?
That's
And then well, you owe us room, you owe us board. We spent all this money on you. You have to pay it back. So see, that's not part of what they get told. But again, you're right. So the globally, we're about 160 billion with a B like boy industry
good
for
Lord.
human trafficking.
Is that people or money?
That's money.
Money. Okay.
Now, 95 billion of that is primarily sex trade, whether it's prostitution, massage parlor stuff, whatever it looks like in different areas. And for the audience, one victim is usually sold anywhere from 20 to 25 times in a day, a 24-hour period. Okay. So imagine a 10-year-old, imagine an 18-year-old, someone in their 20s. So we have the sex trafficking, and then of course the labor trafficking, a lot of slave labor. We actually have more human slavery, Chris, now than we ever have had in this country. But we don't see it the same way as we did before, because with human trafficking, it's not based on any race, religion, culture. It's simply there's human product out there, and me as a predator, I want to go get that. And that's what happens, whether it's over the internet or gaining somebody's trust. I could give you thousands of stories about that.
Give us one. Give us one.
Okay. Okay. So, one of the gals that we rescued before Voices Against Trafficking, we had a shelter called Beulah's Place, and it was a safe house based system that we created, 3 to 5 month shelter. They had to get a job, they had to graduate high school or get their GED. And then, a lot of them moved on to college or whatever. So, what happened with this one girl was her dad was a religious leader in a community, very well known. He was the one violating her. And from age 5 on, mother finally divorced him after a lot of damage had been done, became an alcoholic, was more interested in her male friends and companions than she was her daughter. So from ages 12 to 16, this young girl was left alone 6 days a week with frozen food, frozen dinners in the freezer. So she still went to high school. She still maintained a great GPA. But one day a friend said, "Hey, why don't you come over to my house? We're going to have a party. And, you're going to feel really good. You won't worry about being lonely and all that stuff." Well, it was a drug party. She never would have gotten involved in drugs, but here's somebody that took an interest to her. Fast forward a few more years, at 17, a 30-year-old woman approached her, and somehow she had been introduced to this girl. And she said, "Oh, your mom's not around that much. Well, hey, how about we hang out? I'll take you to lunch. How about I take you to lunch?" "Oh, yeah, of course. Why not? 17-year-old girl's going to want to not only eat, but, be with someone who's interested in spending time with her." Then came the little gifts. Okay. Then came the let's go to a movie. And then finally, after a couple months, it was, "Hey, I have friends coming into town. They're only going to be here for a night, and they're at the motel at the south end of town. I want you to meet them. I know they're going to love you." Well, once she walked through that motel door, everything changed for her. And the woman said, "You can't tell anyone because you'll be the one that goes to jail because I have a job and I'm established and you're just a 17-year-old kid."
Wow. Good
Yeah.
grief.
Now, she did get a hold of our organization, our shelter, and today she has a master's in social sciences and she's helping other kids that were like her. So intercession helps
Yes,
tremendously.
yes. Andi, I know we've been talking about ages, and I want to ask you that question. And folks, let me just say this: we're going to give you a chance here at the end tonight to ask Andi your questions. Just bear with us a minute. I want you to just give us a heads up. We're gonna let you interact with her, so don't sit there and think you're going to be a spectator. We're going to get you participating in this tonight. It's a very important subject. You mentioned you were first abused and trafficked at 5. Is that a average age of where this starts, or is there sort of a median age where these things happen? I know there's a lot of teenagers, and I'm thinking as you were talking about the 17-year-old just now. I know that that's an age that kids are very gullible, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just that age group is very, very easily persuaded to do things. As you said, what trafficking's about, you do something that they really would not normally want to do. But if they feel fear, if they feel intimidation, if they fear for their life, and a lot of these traffickers are not nice. They threaten their parents, they threaten their loved ones. If you don't do this, we're going to kill somebody or do something. So we're dealing with the most evil of society when you're dealing with people. We're not dealing with Mister Rogers here.
No,
And
no.
but is that age group, is it getting lower as we get deeper into this spurge on the society, or is there been any changes in the average age group that this affects?
It actually has become younger. I was actually trafficked from 6 months old.
6 months
My
old.
first
Wow.
suicide attempt was at 5. But see, I was in familial trafficking. In the early 60s, there wasn't a term. Nobody even talked about child abuse. Kids were more like chattel than they were humans. So yeah, familial trafficking, family trafficking is even harder for victims to get out of because if they're taken to court or to the police station, basically the bloodline kind of covers a lot of sins. And so, but to your point, yes, and sadly, infants, toddlers, I had a young girl that we helped a few years back, and her 1-year-old and 3-year-old had both been violated by baby daddy and friends. And so it is truly vile. And some people listening are going to maybe not be able to accept that, but that is the truth. So I will tell you, though, generally the bulk starts around 12, 13 years old
Okay.
for boys or girls and then goes up. The most dangerous place right now for you parents of college kids or grandparents of college kids for a female 18 to 24 years old, college campuses are one of the most dangerous places.
Wow.
Think about, hey, some of the kids who never got out, they're partying or they're going to social things, or maybe they've been bullied, or maybe they're quiet and shy, but trafficking rings actually pay other college students a lot of money to go recruit for them, because who will someone trust on a college campus? Somebody who's a peer or some stranger they don't really know, kind of thing. So that's
Yeah.
how that works.
Well, I
uh,
think you were reading my mind because I was going with the next question. How much percentage do these victims know they're traffickers? In other words, is there a familiarity with them? I know the kidnapping comes into play sometimes. Look, the cartels don't care. They are such monsters and
right.
animals. They will kidnap a ham sandwich and bring it over the thing and sell it. I mean, and as you said, the children are cattle to them. They have no sense of decency, no sense of
That's right.
morality. But there's another segment to this that I've heard, and you can help me with this, is there also a familiarity sometimes with these victims? They don't even know they're going into a trafficking situation because they know the perpetrator. Is that true?
Absolutely. Think about even the sexual violations that went rampant in several of our universities, that were in the news, whether it was Pennsylvania, Michigan, Southern California. I mean, adults will use trust or the idea of power. Hey, I can make you an Olympic athlete, right? If you do everything I tell you to do and show up at my house and we do these special training exercises, whatever that is. But yes, it is definitely it's very difficult because how do we protect our kids? But yes, gaining that trust is very important. And yes, I would say the majority of victims do know their predator to some degree. Now, maybe they were introduced to that teacher by someone else. Okay, but there's some kind of familiarity other than, like you said, the grab and go predator. And for those with younger children, you need to know that it only takes a skilled predator about 3 seconds to pick up an 80-pound kid and run.
That's true.
You know,
That's very true. Is the online situation, the gaming? I've had a lot of parents express very deep concern about their kids' gaming habits and these gaming chat rooms. Look, thank God I got 3 grown boys now, but I know when Caleb, my youngest, was in his teens, he was a gamer. And
yeah,
I remember Daddy telling him one night, I said, I don't care if if it's the president himself, but if somebody's trying to talk to you in that chat room where you get into some kind of game and they're trying to talk to you, you need to cut it off. You either cut it off or I'm going to cut it off. I need to know about it because I knew that
yeah.
that's an avenue that we don't even talk about. But these gaming chats are becoming basically trafficking chats. Or am I correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's no different than years ago when they were trying to get pedophiles in stings, like on Facebook and stuff like that. But we've progressed. Right now, there's approximately 1 million predators every single day on the internet looking for your niece, your nephew, your cousin, your child. They want human product, and they will do anything to lure that person on the other end of the screen. Think about online dating. It's not a whole lot different, and it's just as dangerous for adults to be doing that as well, because you really don't know who's on the other side of that screen or if the pictures and the things they're telling you are really true. I'm not saying you can't do it at all. I'm just saying you have to be really diligent. So especially where younger people are involved.
Yeah.
So with that many predators, you're right. Let me talk about the gaming for just a quick moment.
Go ahead.
We need to, as parents, adults, whoever is in charge of your children, they need to be able to watch the entire gaming program before you let that child do it, because a lot of times the front end of the game is sort of padded, and then once you get in, your kid could be in sex rooms. They could be into things, seeing things that would terrify them normally. So you want to make sure that the games they have and the people they're chatting with are monitored and in a way that doesn't make your kids feel like you're policing them, but that you're trying to protect them. And the key to that, Chris, is conversation.
Absolutely.
Having age appropriate conversations, which voices can help with. We have a lot of things on YouTube. We have a lot of people on our team that can help with that. But basically, you want to make sure that your family is vested, whatever that family unit looks like, in the safety of all people in that family unit. And that's something that requires a conversation. After that, then it's due diligence. But I had a great experience. The producer of one of our fundraisers, DJs Against Trafficking, last November, he sat his grandkids down, all of them, because they were on the robot or robotics. I can't remember what it's called. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah,
I don't need
that particular one. And he took our prevention packet. We have a 4-page prevention packet that we offer for free. If anybody will just send us a little note through our contact on the website, it comes directly to me. We will send an e-copy of it out, and it has grooming, what grooming is, and some information about what to look for. And then it has the helplines and hotlines. And then we have a couple of pages on tips for parents or guardians of children, how to keep them safe, some things that you can do so that if they need to contact you, you can, but basically, and preventing child abuse. He took that and he sat them down and he went through every single part of that with his grandkids. He said, kind of like a Bible study, Andi. I
Good
said,
deal.
okay.
Absolutely. No, it sounds like a good Bible study to do
There
that.
you go. And he shut it down. He shut that game down on all the
Good for
phones,
him. Good for him.
So
Yeah.
took them all of about 30 minutes. That's it. That's a cheap insurance package.
This question is one you may or may not know the answer to, but I'm curious about this. Is there a percentage, because I know this is not just an American issue, maybe we want to make it clear tonight, we're talking about a global $160 billion a year industry all over this world. How many would you say, percentage wise, are kidnapped when they're kidnapped? Are they taken out of the country? How many is that percentage higher than those that are maybe just trafficked among here in America? Like if somebody, and God forbid, but if somebody kidnaps a child, is it more feasible for them, more profitable for them to ship that child overseas as it is to traffic him or her here? You said 25 times in a day sometimes is that possibility. Are they quick to get them out of the country? And then on the other flip side of that, Andi, how many international kids are coming through America that are being trafficked by traffickers here? I don't know if there's a figure that you can estimate that, but can you speak to that?
Well, just off the cuff, I do not have statistics for that. That would be a little bit challenging, only because the statistics that we do have are based on reporting.
Right.
So if it's not reported, we may not know what's happening. But I would wager an educated guess that we have more kids being shipped out from America, because remember, American kids are still seen as a high commodity. And it doesn't mean they don't get shipped out, but I had an experience where I had two, their what do I want to say, their dialect and their looked very Eastern European, like Russian. They drove up to my driveway one day and pretending to look for a 7-year-old boy that they said was their son. Now, there was no mother, no woman in the truck. The guy that was driving had dark glasses, a dark hat on, not smiling, not panicked. The guy that got out was a little more social. Hey, we looking for, our son. Didn't have a name, didn't have a picture, no photograph, nothing. And I think once they figured out I was kind of onto them, they jetted out of there, man. They blazed out of there. And it took me 11 minutes to convince the 911 operator that this person was more than likely a trafficker looking for kids. And well, it doesn't really happen here, or they probably just saw your garage door open, and I had to explain who I was, what I did, and still it was like pulling teeth to get that woman to say, well, I'll let one of the patrol people know.
Yeah.
Well, the guy was long gone by then.
Absolutely was. This is going to be more of a sensitive question, and this may, we're both faith people, and I already know that you're faith, and I'm faith too. How much of this touches the church? How much involved are church officials? Because, if you think about trust, and I hate to bring this up because it gets into some sensitive areas, and I've listened to some horror stories of people, and there's been a lot of accusation through the years of big name leaders that have been involved in trafficking and sex abuse and sex trafficking of girls and men. And I want to make it clear to the audience tonight, and I'm sure Andi can correct me if I'm wrong, but this doesn't just involve women. This involves men, boys, girls. There's no gender lines that this affects more than others. This is across the board. But is this scourge touching the church as much as we are being told, or do you think that's exaggerated, or are we not even understanding that the church is becoming a trafficking hub, sadly, for many?
Oh, I think it's underappreciated, underreported, because what church wants to be known for that, right? We already have some churches that have been in the headlines, and it's tragic because that should be a place where someone can go and feel safe. And that's exactly how the predators work. They know that, hey, if they're a church leader or something like that, they'll gain the trust of people. Just, originally, like 30 years ago, was having affairs, extramarital affairs. That was the scourge, right? But now, look at all the vacation Bible schools. Look at all the children's schools that come out of churches that are set up. Think about all the places that kids can hide. Think about the rectories or the office buildings, that are there because they're running a church. Now, it's not the church's fault, it's the people in the church. Okay.
Right.
Again, if they had one of our folks do a virtual training or presentation, we could help more people, but they have to want the help. And then again, what about background checks? Have we done deep background checks on pastors, on priests,
Amen.
on shamans, on whoever? Just it doesn't matter the religion. We're talking about human beings.
We're absolutely talking about human beings, and I will say this. There's a lot of churches that would blanch at that and say, well, how dare you say we need a background check on people of faith? Let me tell you something. When it comes to this and our kids, that nursery worker, I think that the church, to me, the church is just as guilty if they allow a trafficker or they allow somebody that's abusing kids into their midst, knowing good and well that they're doing it. And if they don't know, that's not an excuse to me. Ignorance is not an excuse, because we're putting our kids, and you think about it, Andi, and you just hit it a while ago, the greatest trust that we put in people, a person of faith, is it's an automatic. You're going to say, well, there's no way they can harm me in this situation. And
That's right.
we've had a guest here, Stacy Shiflett, and he had a pastor that was grooming him basically for things that were not good for years.
Yeah.
And he was a young man, and he didn't even realize it. And I see this going on and on. And when we hear about these things, it's just so diabolical. It's so deranged of the male on male, the female on female, the men grooming women, men grooming men. And it just makes you want to take a bath. But we need to understand that
it should make everyone feel that way.
but we've reached that point. That's my point, and that's why even in church settings we need to be diligent who's handling our kids and what's going on in that body, because God knows that there are many victims that have been hurt, and they'll never be normal again, because it's been a faith leader, not so much even a cartel member or a family member.
Absolutely, that trust. And not only that, okay, so first of all, for the audience, sexual violation is one of the most intimate violations a human being can experience. Okay, it goes straight to the soul of the person. A lot of people don't recover from that. As horrific as my background was, I am still one of the lucky ones, because God did speak to me that day in the curb. He said, this is not the plan I have for you. Suicide is not the answer. God does not want anybody to be violated or hurt that way. But we are human beings, and we have depraved natures out there, and we're not going to change that part of it. But what we can do is make product less available to them, and make sure our kids and children understand this goes beyond stranger danger. Okay. And so again, conversations are the key to the beginning of protecting your family, your kids, your nieces and nephews. And then we also, besides churches, Chris, we got to look to the government systems, the social, absolutely, foster care, all those systems where there is no true accountability or auditing that goes on. And why not? And here's the other kicker, and our friend Eric, is the one that gave me this. He may have already told you, but I just found out from him that 40% of our congressional members are lawyers. Okay, so why is this not a priority to enforce the laws we already have on the books against trafficking, and also do more? I mean, somebody said, well, they don't have a say. Well, they may not have a lot of say in Congress, but they have a lot of say as an attorney. And that attorney, that's a privilege. That's something where you're supposed to protect the next person, right? Every person's rights are supposed to be protected. So, I was just stunned by that, because I thought, man, we could be doing so much more.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think you answered your question you just asked a while ago. $160 billion, my friend. And I believe that $160 billion finds its way into pockets of politicians and leaders and the gatekeepers of this stuff, and the people that are winking an eye at it, to pastors. Look at the wealth of these politicians, Andi. It is grotesque that you have a bartender go into Congress from New York with no wealth whatsoever, She's in a millionaire now. You've got other members. By the way, does the Somali daycare fraud part include these learning centers that we need to be looking at? That maybe there's some stuff going on that don't need to be there. I would
Mhm.
say yes to that. But anyway, I don't want to get off on the money because it's a
Yeah,
pretty clear idea. But I do got to ask you a question about nations, and
sure.
then we're gonna get to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Is there one nation? How does the United States rank in like when you say trafficking? Okay,
Mhm.
how do we rank internationally? As the worst or the best? And there's no best, but what I mean is the amount of it. Are we at the top? Are we at the bottom? What nation ranks the worst in this trafficking spurge?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, organ trafficking, definitely China, but as far as human trafficking, um, I haven't looked at it currently, but I would more than an educated guess say that the US is at least in the top three, if
Wow.
not, because again, the demand that we have from the US drives a lot of the cartel business. And so we used to just be worried about people looking at pornography. Okay, well, pornography leads to a lot of other things, but again, you have a lot of people that want to be influential. So sometimes they have some of these charismatic leaders like the Keith Renier
Epstein?
situation where he was a Hollywood business guru type guy, and then suddenly things got a little dicier. And if you wanted to be in with him, right, you would do these things. And so, he's serving 120 years, but that's a rare case.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great example. We've had some people on our show through the years talk about Rainier. Where does Epstein fall in all this? Do you think that this list will ever see the light of day? I know they released millions of pages, but is there ever going to be any justice for these victims that he actually trafficked? Because I felt like he was a trafficker. I mean, my God, him and Ghislaine Maxwell, the things they did on that island, only God Himself knows. And
Right.
let me just,
And
and I want to interject this before I let you
yeah.
talk. I want you to speak to that. What the problem is right now, the media is so, they hate Trump so bad that the only one that they want to make sure that's on that list is Trump, but he's not. You've got presidents, school people, educators. You got bankers. You've got Hollywood big shots. You got politicians. You've got every aspect of society on that list, but everybody ignores it because
Mhm.
there's so much Trump hatred. They want to make Trump be on that list. He's not on that list, and he did not do this. He did not hub with Epstein, but Epstein
Right.
has what the damage he's done will never be probably ever solved in the sense outside of a
Oh
miracle of
no.
God that happened with you. But are you satisfied that that list is going to bring any kind of justice or any kind of solution or resolution to these victims?
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, knowing who the predator is, okay, and I had to do a lot of therapy because a lot of the identities were murky and we worked through that. But knowing who they were and then dealing with it, there was never any justice for the predators in my life. My last familial predator died a year ago, and I'm in my 60s. So from that entire moment of birth into that family all the way to now, it took that long to know for sure there is not one monster coming out of any closet again in my life.
Right,
I do have PTSD. I deal with
right.
that every day, but I've learned to cope with it and to create a new normal. Not everybody does. But again, to your point, I don't think that those victims are really going to have any kind of, I don't know if I would say resolution or like, oh my gosh, okay, thank goodness. I don't really see that happening.
I
One,
got you.
the trauma is still there. Two, the names aren't going to do them any good. What they need is the intercession, like we did with the kids. What
Right.
they need is what I did. Counselors that are skilled in this area, this particular area, to help them, get as far as they can to creating a new normal. And here's my question to the audience. Yeah, everybody wants to know who's in the book for whatever reason, right? Why aren't we that interested in all the other victims that right now, as we speak, are being violated against their will, being drugged against their will, being beaten against their will, all in the name of profit for the traffickers?
Yeah, I'm with you 1,000,000% there. Do you think President Trump is still focusing on this? Do you think with Holman at the head of the Department of Homeland Security now. Do you think that the focus is still the intensity of the focus is where it needs to be, or is it waned? I'll ask you that real quick, and then I'm going to get to the Super Bowl with you and then take some questions.
Okay. Well, in the area of human trafficking, period, yes, I think his focus and his heart is 100% there. I think he had a lot of things, as any new administration does, right? That first year is either cleaning up or shoring up or doing whatever from the previous administration. When that border was opened, it slaughtered us. Not even my partners, colleagues, and voices on the border could keep up with all the kids coming across. They were just, they had no more resources. They had not enough people to save all those kids. So we were there front lines watching what happens when you do that.
Wow.
And knowing, yeah, that those kids who can't speak English, who have no genuine family in the country, are going to suffer in a way that we can't imagine.
Um, I want to address this upcoming event Sunday because
Mhm.
I'd heard this before. And when I knew you were coming on tonight, I wanted to run this by you. I know you would be the one that would really be the one that could help us understand the scope of this. But the Super Bowl, I did not know this until recently, a few years ago, I guess, when I say recent, that it is the biggest social event in the world where the most trafficking takes place. And I want you to explain why and also how that came to be, how have we just been oblivious to what was going on there? Who's allowing that? Why are we not, clamping down on that? Because
Mhm.
that just strikes me as being so unreal that a sporting event where it's supposed to be a sporting event has turned into a trafficking utopia. Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, people come from all over the world to the Super Bowl. Okay.
Correct.
It's not just US people. So you're going to automatically have predators that have already reserved hotel rooms that are going to have parties that they either advertise or they get the word out to. They have people, multiple people looking out around the restrooms, around areas where perhaps young people will wander because, oh, well, Junior's 12 years old. It's okay if he goes up and gets his own soda, right? The parents, the adults aren't watching. They're all about the game and their team and the rah rah, and they may be a little bit inebriated or they may not. But we had, I don't know if you remember the story a couple of years ago about the young girl. Her dad and her were at the Mavericks game. It was a pro basketball game. Anyway, uh, and she went up to use the bathroom and didn't come back. And the dad was like, didn't think about it really until maybe 10 minutes later, wondering where his daughter is. And so she actually was grabbed, and the mother, and I don't know how she ended up looking at the sale of humans site because not a lot of people do that, but she saw her daughter for sale on
Goodness
one of the dark
gracious.
sites, and they were able to locate her. But it took 11 days and a lot of law enforcement between two different states, which I commend them for, to find her. And guess what? That girl's not the same as she
No,
was
she's
when
not.
she went. Yeah. So again, even if we don't have our own children, being guardians, watching. So the Super Bowl is such a highly charged, highly hyped event. The game in your local area is just as dangerous, but on a smaller scale. But there they can hide a lot more. The predators blend in with the spectators. Yeah, rah rah, and then oh hey, let me help you there, Junior. Hey, let's go over here. I think they're giving away free hot dogs. What kid doesn't want a free hot dog or something? So they use all kinds of tactics, but they're fast. Like I said, they're very fast. They're very quick. And honestly, I'm just going to be in my soapbox right now. I think that entire athletic professional sports organization need to invest more in security
Yes.
when they have these big kind of games, whether it's an Orange Bowl or the Super Bowl or the US Open. We need to have more security, or at least have the cameras around the vulnerable areas, whether it's exits, entrances, bathrooms, hallways that are dark, or more shadowy. So those kinds of things. Well, that'll cost money. Well, how much is your child's life worth?
Uh, Priceless. And can I just get on my soapbox?
Yeah,
I
please.
think the parents. I think the parents need to wise up and grow up. That you don't let an 11-year-old go to the bathroom by herself, and you
Yeah.
don't let a 15-year-old. Look, I got a son He laughs at me to this day, but when he turned 18 a few years back. We were walking in the mall, and I told him, I said, stay near me. And he looked
Yeah.
at me. He said, Daddy, I'm an adult now. He said, I'm 18 years old. He said, are you kidding me? I looked at him. I said, KK, I love you. I said, you don't understand. I said, it don't matter. I said, stay close to me while you're walking in this mall with me. I'm just a little overprotective, I guess, but I do not trust the
Hmm.
society out there. And I feel like sometimes that we parents, we take it for granted, and it only takes one. It takes this, just what happened with this 11-year-old girl. If they
Hmm.
got her back in
Hmm.
11 days, Andy, it can happen just like that, just like
Right.
that. And we cannot
Absolutely.
understand. I don't think we can overstate how evil this society has gotten. The
Hmm.
debauchery. Look, we're witnessing a breakdown of lawfulness in this country like I have never seen in my life. We are
Yes.
witnessing a breakdown of the foundations of the very fabric of society. People are murdering, they're raping, they're assaulting, they're kidnapping. These pedophiles are getting worse. They are hanging out in men's bathrooms in churches, men's
Hmm.
bathrooms and women's bathrooms and sporting events, schools. You can't trust your kid almost to go to school anymore without worrying about something happening to them by an educator or something happening to them at the school. And
Hmm.
we have just look. I know that the cure of this is spiritual. I understand that. I'm not. This is not. I'm not here to preach tonight. I could, but the issue,
You could.
unfortunately, even though it can be fixed spiritually, it's not going to be fixed spiritually until there is a revival in the church and the nation wants to turn from this evil and wickedness. And that's what scares me.
Absolutely.
It scares me to death, Andy, because it's like people embrace this stuff and there's no end to it. And then my final question to you tonight, before we ask questions from the audience, is
Hmm.
it getting worse in your opinion after all these years that you've been involved in this and fighting against this? Are you seeing it getting any better? Or is this getting even darker? Because, in my opinion, and again, I'm just outside looking
Hmm.
in, the stuff that I see that's happening to our kids
Hmm.
and these stories, I'm from Georgia. A legal alien broke into a house here, speaking of an 11-year-old.
Hmm.
Just last week, raped an 11-year-old girl in front of her 10-year-old sister, just literally
Oh.
raped her repeatedly, threatened the 10-year-old, held the knife to the 10-year-old's neck while he was doing what he was doing to her sister and said, if you tell anybody, I'm going to kill you.
Hmm.
And again, the illegal alien should be that's an to me that's a electric chair offense. I know that that's a little tough. You put him in the electric chair, that's an electric chair offense to me. But this pedophilia and all these things that are going on, it to me it's getting darker. Tell me,
Hmm.
am I wrong or am I right? Is it
No,
things getting better, worse, or are we in a sort of a holding tank with this? I think they're getting darker.
I think the depravity is darker. I think we also had, because of the previous administration opening the border, which is a fact, we were slaughtered and unable to control the influx of everything and every kind of criminal person that came in. However, yeah, that's one reason why I speak, because I want to share the truth of the matter, but also the hope, like me. Okay, if I can do this, if God can do this for me, He can do this for others. But we have to do it collectively as a community and not squawk every time we send a criminal back to wherever they came from.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank
mean,
you.
two words, Riley Lakin, okay, or Lakin Riley. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we have to say that girl's life has to mean something, okay, and instead of being driven by hate, we should be driven by the need to be a voice of courage in our own neighborhoods, our own villages, our own towns, our own apartment complexes, saying, I will be vigilant. I will keep an eye out for children, even if they're not mine. So we have to look for things that don't look right.
I'm with you. Well, that leads me to our. By the way, before I forget it, I meant to ask you this a while ago. The suicide rate among trafficking victims, about what percentage caught when they're trafficked and these traumatic things happen to them? What percentage of that group commits suicide or at least attempts it? Is that high or?
It is very high. A lot of the girls that we rescued were on their second or third suicide attempt when we got them. Okay.
Mercy.
And then we're able, thankfully, to turn them around. And we're talking like 300 plus just in our area, not counting anywhere else that we've been helping. But The suicide rate is hugely high. If we don't get intercession, if we don't get leaders to start getting on the bandwagon. And right now with midterms, my question is, do you know the person you're voting for? Have they done anything to show you that they're willing to protect kids in your region? Or are they doing something now just because they're running for office? If they can't show you that they're pro stopping human trafficking, that should be a major thing before you vote or give money to any candidate of any party. I don't care who it is.
I'm with you 1,000,000%, and I'll just throw in the abortion issue because the way I look at it, abortion, because we're going to get your friend on about the organ harvesting in China, but we've got some people organ harvesting in America. You got
Oh,
basically
yes.
Planned
Yeah.
Parenthood selling baby parts to people like it's again an eBay special, and Andy, the way I look at it, if a politician can't protect an innocent baby in the womb of a woman,
Hmm.
why in the what do we think that they're going to protect a child from being trafficked? They're not. They're not going to do it. To me, the argument's the same. You're protecting the most vulnerable among us. And if you can't do that and you claim that it's the right for the woman to kill a baby, then you're probably going to believe it's okay for that trafficker to traffic. Because all I see right now, I look at Minneapolis, I look at Minnesota, and these politicians, I look at Waltz, I look at Ellison, I look at Frey, I look at the mayor of Seattle, I look at Pritzker in Illinois, I look at the Newsom fraud out in California. I look at the mayor of New York, Mandami, whatever his name is. I look at AOC. I look at Elon Omar. I look at all of these leaders that are pushing. Chuck Schumer does not want a SAVE Act. He doesn't want ID to vote. He wants people to be able to just do their thing. When these politicians say these things, we need to take them at their word. They're telling us what they really are going to do. That's what they want.
Hmm.
There's no sugarcoating this. And if they are going to push this debauchery and this depravity on us, they need to be voted out of office. And I'm going to go a little bit further. They need to be in jail because they're just as culpable as the trafficker. Am I
Well,
correct?
you're assisting, you're complicit. I
You're
mean, if you're
complicit.
assisting the action, the criminal action, if you or I did that, we'd be in jail, no problem. They throw away the key, right? And that, for a victim, from my standpoint, if that predator is not dead or locked up for life without early parole, without cherries, no TVs, no ice cream, nothing,
Yeah,
then that victim never really feels one that
totally.
justice was done.
Totally,
Yeah.
everybody. Stephen Finahoy, great question right off the bat for you. It goes to what we were just talking about. Maybe you can speak to this, and we really hadn't talked about this tonight, so it's an excellent
Okay.
question. What is the best way to spot a human trafficking situation? Are there warning signs that the public can watch for? And I think you could bring it down to a family because this is personal. This is not so much even the public. There's probably some things we can look at if we see some things. But I will tell you, I think it's a great question because there's a lot of families out tonight that have been affected by this, but there were warning signs that something was not right.
Sure.
Speak to that for us. It's a great question.
It is a great question, and we didn't really get to that, so this is good. Okay, so let's start with number one. In your immediate environment, whatever that is, home, work, travel. In fact, the first chapter of our new book that we brought out in September that became an international bestseller, the first chapter is exactly that. One of our members was traveling in Atlanta, Georgia, and she had to get on a flight. She noticed that this gentleman did not quite look right in terms of black hoodie, black pants, and he had this toddler that looked like she was dressed up, as she says, for Christmas. Beautiful dress, all of that, but no diaper bag, no bottle. He didn't seem comfortable, handling this child. So she actually did a selfie, quote unquote, turned around, took a picture, took a lot of pictures, his gate number, and she just looked like a traveler, doing the tourist thing. But again, she saw something that didn't match, that didn't look right. And not everybody is a trafficker, if they're a 40-year-old man and they have a toddler, but everything else around it. And she talked to the flight attendant. They're all trained about human trafficking, how to address it. And we were able to open a case with Homeland Security within 4 hours of her contacting me, and I contacted someone in DC. So we were able to intercede there. But in general, if it doesn't look right or feel right, it probably isn't right. What you do about it, again, drop those numbers into your phone off our website, hotlines and helplines on voicesagainsttrafficking.com. Number two, if you can do it safely, and grab a picture of the license plate, maybe of the car that's pulling away with the child or whoever that you think is in trouble. That kind of thing. You can always report that as a suspected kidnapping, suspected abuse, suspected, possible trafficking situation. So it's about being aware. There was a woman on a plane, another plane story real quick, but there were two young girls with her. The woman, you could tell, as we call this, like the handler, and the two girls, they had like $100 nail jobs. They had very expensive clothes, like makeup. Their hair was done up, and the one of our friends noticed that, a friend of Voices, and he talked to the airline attendant, and she said, "Yeah, I kind of saw that too." When the one girl wanted to go to the bathroom, the handler and the other girl went with her, and they made sure that that girl couldn't talk to anyone, couldn't speak
Wow.
to anyone, didn't leave any notes in the bathroom. They checked. So, but when the plane landed, TSA was already there and ready to intercede, and that woman was trying to traffic those two girls out of the country.
Goodness gracious. Wow. Great response, Stephen. Great question.
Yeah.
Perfect question for tonight, and I'm glad you asked it. Donna Nuzzo's got another good one for you, and really, this is interesting. She says, "What age group does a person have to be before they're considered to be too old in age to be sex trafficked, or is there no age limit for a person to have this happen to them?" That's actually a good question because
That is.
is there any ceiling on this, or is it don't really matter?
It
What's your
doesn't
take on
really
that?
matter. I'm not going to say that a 75-year-old person couldn't be trafficked. It might be a little less
Right.
likely,
You're right. I
as we get.
understand.
But the organ harvesting, definitely any age, any stage, as long as it's healthy. And if they don't get the right kidney, they'll kill you and go on to someone else and get another, kidney, because there are buyers out there internationally, domestically. If you need a transplant, you don't want to be on the list and wait and you have enough money. There are people out there that will find you one, even if it means killing somebody. They have no problem with that. So, but that's organ harvesting. To her point, yes, another two friends of mine in their 40s, women that are very smart, attractive. One was almost taken from a big box store exit, and the other one, there was a new bartender at her usual restaurant, and within a minute or two of her drink, she felt sick. And if she hadn't had another girlfriend with her in that restaurant, she probably would have been either dead or in trouble, because she would have made it to the restroom before somebody else would have picked her up, because we may only see one person, but they always have backup, just like at the sporting events. There are always backups in case the first predator doesn't catch the person, or in
Uh,
case they need to offload that kid as soon as possible. So they have teams of people in order to do this trafficking the way that they do.
um, that what you just said to me just it hit me just now, and I want to clarify what I just heard because I
Hmm.
need to get my head around this. So you're saying because we're going to talk about the organ harvesting with your friend at some point
Hmm.
down the road this month and next, but the some of these trafficking situations are not even about sex, domestic, or whatever prostitution. That there are people out there that are willing to kill people, kidnap people for their organs to put
Hmm.
them on the open market. Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
Yeah, I should probably add, there are times where traffickers, if they've used up, say, a young girl, and either she's no longer productive or
Right.
can't be because she's been drugged out, they often will kill her and take the organs from her.
That is so
Okay.
dark. That
Yeah,
is so
it
dark.
is
Goodness
cannibalistic.
gracious. Cannibalistic. It is. It is, Andy. That is that's some diabolical, demonic witchcraft evil, is it not? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we're saying tonight. This is at a level that look in my lifetime. We're about the same age, friend, and look, I've never.
Hmm.
I'll be honest with you. Maybe this was going on back when we were younger, but I don't think I've ever seen the depth of darkness and demonic just there's a demented element to this. Like this is something that
There is.
when I read some of these stories, the first thought in my mind is how my wife says this to me all the time. How can people be so evil? And I tell
Hmm.
her all the time. I said, the devil can make people be that. But I have to agree with her. I think the same thing. And I think sometimes when I see the stories, my first question is how low can you be depraved? How depraved can you be to come up with this illegal alien that raped an 11-year-old girl? How do you come up with the
It's
thinking
gonna be a
to go
tough one to
rape an
get through.
11-year-old girl? You know,
Yeah.
but anyway, Carol Smith, great question. Another good question for you. I, you're not like Karen. He's in bed by 7 o'clock with his milk and cookies, right? So I got you for a little bit. I just want to make sure that we're good here.
I'm
But
on the other end of the
I
coast.
know you are. Carol Smith. She says, "Are the number of boys trafficked about the same as girls?" That's a good question too, because I think we think of trafficking as women mainly,
Sure.
but there is a market for boys, is there not?
It's a growing market. I would say the females are still ahead in terms, I hate to say it that way, but there are still more females that are trafficked. And but the boys are rising up, the men are rising up. So let's just take because we can only go off what's reported, let's just say we're looking at 2 out of 5 girls reported. I'm going to say, just based on what I've worked with and what I've seen and all the information we have, it's more like 3 out of every 5 girls. Now, it could be 4 out of every 5 that are sexually assaulted or in domestic violence situations. But as far as the trafficking goes, I would wager that. With the boys, basically, we started really low, but the dark web and the website specifically dedicated to male, I would say we're at least two out of
Two out of
six.
six. Okay.
Yeah, maybe three, but I would say at least 2 out of 6 as of the current climate.
Another great question. In Facebook, I've got your question, Dennis, your question, and Judith, I'm going to read your statement. So we're coming to Facebook next. But Mary Sullivan, great question here. She says, I've heard, I got a great audience. I just do. I love this
Yeah,
audience. No, they,
great
they
audience.
really
I
do. No,
love it.
these sharp folks. She says, I've heard that there are hand signals that children can use to ask for help. She says, is that true? And what are some of them? That is an excellent question because is there hand signals that if you're a child or a teenager or anybody for that matter
Mhm.
that you can do to show somebody, hey, I'm being kidnapped or I'm being taken or any is there any network of signals that is known to the community to say, hey, if we see this, there's something going on.
There have been there. I'm going to give you Andy's personal opinion about that. It started out as a great idea, but then guess who else figured out how to use
The
those signals?
kidnappers. The
Yeah,
kidnappers.
the predators, and even to the point where, let's say they're targeting someone or a couple of girls. They'll find a friend of those girls and say, "Hey, we'll pay you X amount of money if you use this hand signal," and then you get help and you go to their house and whatever, and you again build the trust, and then it goes from there. So for me personally, I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying I don't promote it because I we already know that it's been corrupted.
Boy, another demented situation that there's no hand signals that you can do to get out of this. Wow, good question, Mary. Though that's an excellent question.
It was a great
Um,
question.
Let me read this. Dennis Floyd says, I hate to ask this, but he says, what happens to the babies? I guess sold, but I can only imagine. And I know that there are many people wanting to adopt, but you mentioned your situation is 6 months. What is their goal? It is sick to even think about the fact that somebody would do this familia, as you said, the infamilia
Yeah.
thing. Why would somebody traffic an infant? What's their goal in that?
Well, again, and this is, why when people started saying, well, trafficking, only started 20 years. No, it didn't. It started pretty much after Cain and Abel. And think
Pretty
about the
much.
Greco-Roman era.
Yeah.
There's always a trade for sex, for money, for debt repayment. So it's been going on for a long time. It's just been more open and more, public than it's been in the last 20 years. So to that question, I couldn't understand why my birth mother did that to me either. And my cousins and other people. I really don't. In that case, I would say it was pure depravity because in the early 60s, they didn't know they could make money off of it, right? So there are actually family systems that encourage and grow human trafficking businesses in their family system generation after generation. They groom their kids from a very young age, they make it a business. Mine was not that, but I'm telling you, that's how orchestrated it is because there hasn't been, it's kind of like, you better just wait till your daddy comes home. Right now, you're going to get it. Well, we haven't done that as a country yet. We haven't said, okay, enough is enough. Now you're really in trouble, predators, and this is what we're going to be doing.
I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that. Judith Norton, I want to read her statement because I think
Mhm.
it's worth reading, and I tend to agree with her sentiment about this. She says the trans movement has made it easier for biological men to enter women's restrooms. It's very upsetting. It is. But Andi, I'm going to turn this into a question for you. How has the trans community added to this issue? Because her point, when you get down to it, think about the 11-year-old girl, okay? Think about the
Mhm.
11-year-old girl that goes in that bathroom by herself, and you've
Mhm.
got some trans man in there that could be a trafficker, could not be. I mean, I'm not saying that all trans are traffickers, but I
Mhm.
think her question is actually not bad. How has the trans community added to this foray of evil? Because now the lines are being so blurred. You walk into a bathroom, you don't even know whether you're taking a break with your same sex, my friend. And that's a dangerous thing for 11, 12, 13-year-old girl to have. And this argument goes back to the left. This again, I want to say this about these politicians. These politicians that do not want to protect girls from men in their bathrooms and men in their sports, they are the lowest scum of the earth. Excuse my Eric Carenness tonight, but I'll just say it like Eric would say it. They are the lowest scum of the earth. And I do believe this is added to this problem. Am I right or wrong?
And that is a big question. Let me break it down a little bit. First of all, anytime there's a group that's separated out, so the trans group, okay, they do two things. One, they become vulnerable because of that choice, and two, why is that 11-year-old girl in the bathroom without some kind of adult outside or
Totally
adult
agree.
nearby? Some guardian around. Again, we have to do our part. Now, let's move it up to 18. Okay, say that the girl or the boy is 18 years old. If someone is going to do something evil, it's not because of the gender, it's because of the person. Does that make sense?
Yes,
It's
absolutely it
their
does.
nature, whether they're a
Absolutely it
guy,
does.
girl. Yeah. So I hope that helps a little bit because I had to learn that when we were trying to house. I got a call from an agency. We didn't have a safe house left to use, but they said, "Do you have a safe house?" Because we have a trans teen, and he now needs a place to stay. And do you have a problem with that? I said, I don't have a problem with that. What I have to do is find out if we can find a safe house mom or dad that would be willing to do that because DNA is DNA. But at the end of the day, a human is a human no matter what they've chosen for their gender. So if they're going to do something evil, it's because they're evil.
I'm with you. Uh, Chris Davis brings up a question, and I'm meant to ask you this too. We're going to keep you about 10 more minutes. I'm going to get you out of here.
No worries.
Been great show tonight. Great show on this Tuesday night, buddy. Satanic rituals. Is some of this being done to feed into satanic rituals around our country? Are we underestimating that element? That a lot of this is being done by the satanic realm. And look, Andi, again, we're going back to faith tonight. And look, I'm proud. I'm a proud follower of Jesus Christ. I love him. He's my Savior. I am not ashamed to go out on this limb tonight and look, these are
Sure.
spiritual dark forces that are
Absolutely. I
working
get that.
against
Yeah.
this nation. And this satanic ritual, I think we need to understand that yes, there is a satanic element to this. And yes, these people that are being trafficking, because these organs, God knows how many satanic rituals and sacrifices have been made
Mhm.
to the God of this earth. And I tend to lean to what Chris is saying, and I would say probably a great number to this. I know you can't put a figure on it, but
Right.
is
Well,
that a legitimate that's a legitimate concern that this is all buying into satanic rituals, right?
and think about the early 1500s, 1600s, different cultures actually used rituals, one to clear out spirits or they believe satanic rituals did something for them, something just like ritualistic abusers, which is what my birth mother was. But to your point, yeah, of course, it's evil. It is satanic, whether no matter what religion you're in. The point is that we let me give you an example. When I was in LA, I grew up in LA, and I was with somebody one night, and it was a night, it was Halloween, and we were just heading home after dinner and heard these screams, okay, screams that would curdle your blood. And so my friend, he went and ran across this field in the middle of the night looking for where the screams were, okay, to see if somebody needed help, which was kind of dangerous, but at the time, you know, it was noble. But and so a police officer pulled up behind our car and he says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, my friend heard, you know, screams and whatever." And at that time, Halloween night was the highest night for homeless people to go missing and be found killed because they were sacrificed,
Yeah.
because they were murdered. And so it is, it's a part of some culture that just sees it as religious.
Yeah, and it's sad. It is demonic. I'm gonna Dennis Floyd. I'm gonna let his question be the last one, unless we get something in YouTube. But I do want to ask you something about the parents, because
Okay.
we've sort of hem-hawed around this tonight. But I think that there's some of this that's going on that the parents have got to not. I'm not saying we're blaming parents for this, because
Right.
nobody can stop what's going on. But I think that the diligence has got to increase with
Mhm.
parents, and yes, even grandparents, about the safety of their children. And even if you get on your son or daughter's last nerve, I think we as grandparents need to harp to our kids. You need to keep those kids safe.
Right.
I know that we take it for granted that our kids may understand that, but we're in a society right now that is so TikTok and microwaved and Facebook and X and Instagram oriented that this is all they do for 24/7. That's all they do. They don't think twice about sending an 11-year-old to a
Exactly.
bathroom. They don't think twice about letting their 13-year-old play games and be talking to sex predators online. They
Mhm.
don't think a thing about, again, exposing their kids. And, you know, and again, I'm not just blaming the parent. I'm not blaming parents tonight. But what I am saying is we as parents and grandparents need to be more diligent with our kids. And
Yes.
we need to realize this is a real danger. It is not going away. It's getting worse, and it's getting more demented. And I would even can I get on another soapbox before I'm out of here
Sure.
tonight?
It's your show.
To the ladies, stay out of the bars. Stay out of the
Yeah.
bars. Because the guy that's giving you the drink, you don't know what's in that drink. And you don't know what's going to happen. And the very fact you're in a bar should let you know you're not in the place you need to be. And that's the preacher coming out of me tonight, but I'm going to say it. Get out of the bar. Because
Or have a safety
nothing
net.
good. Have a
Yeah.
safety net or whatever you're going to do, because there ain't nothing good coming of that. Final question, Dennis Floyd. How about these child adoption agencies? How much of this is going on in these adoption agencies? It's a great question. It's a great
Oh,
question.
yeah, great question. I can't tell you how many stories I have been given and talked to some of the people that have been affected by the quotas that human services that not just adoption agencies, but even foster care, they need to meet quotas every month. And sometimes those quotas are sometimes acquired probably very illegally, but you know, under the cover because there's so many ways to take someone's child from them. And
Mm-hmm.
again, we don't have the accountability that we should in those institutions. Now, I am not saying that they're all bad and that's what they're doing 100% of the time, but I do know factual cases
Right.
of things happening. There have been whistleblowers that have come out even to Congress saying, look, this is what I witnessed, this is what I saw. I was retaliated against, I lost my job, you know, and social services because of this. So there are things that have to be cleaned up. There are ways to run those agencies in a way that will be effective, that will help the kids and the people that we want to help without having the other part of it. But again, we need a collective voice. We need your voice tonight. We need your support tonight
Yeah.
to help
It's
do
great.
that.
Daycare's same. Is there a danger?
Same
Do you
thing.
have any stories about any daycare situation that you've heard about where a child was basically went to daycare one day and didn't come home?
In terms of trafficking, no, but I have a very cautionary tale for anyone that has kids in preschool. It was a California case, I believe, also maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. One of the daycare teachers, he had been, this was his 12th daycare job. Now, he had a history of maybe 6 months, 8 months at 11 other daycare centers. No one checked the employment history, probably didn't do a background check. It wasn't until this 12th daycare, 4, 5, 6 year olds, that he got caught. Now, why is that?
That's a great
Why did
question.
it take
It's a great
12
question.
daycares before he got caught?
because we're not being diligent with our
That's
kids.
right.
We're
That's
not
right.
being diligent, Andy. Buddy, I tell you, this has been a jam up. I'll give you, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give you a 50. Now, I'll have to take 10 points away from you for being Eric Kieran's friend. But
Eric, yeah.
other than that, no, I'm just playing. I love Eric Kieran. He is like blood kin to me. I've stayed at his house. We've shared bread. We've broke bread together. He is my buddy. I love him to death. I do. He don't even know how much I respect him, what he does, and he has been one of our favorite guests over the last 7 years, and him and others. And he highly recommended you. And I'm sorry it's been so long since we've had you back on. And it
That's
won't be
okay.
no, it won't be this long next time. It's been scheduling and all. But listen, I want to thank you so much for this
Sure.
information tonight. I want to show everybody. I've got your website up on the screen right now.
Okay.
Voices Against Trafficking, and we're showing you the links here, folks, how you can contact
Hmm.
the organization. And if you'll go to that website, and then these numbers that you have, the helplines and hotlines, I really encourage you folks to get these numbers down. And I'm doing it fast, but you can go there and write these numbers down. And I would strongly urge you to do that. Now, there's another website you sent me. Uh, I'm going to let you talk about it real quick. Global Ambassadors for Good. And there's a lot of folks on here. Tell us how we can be a global ambassador for good, real quick, and I'll let you wrap it up with the final
All
thoughts.
right. Well, that is an organization that recognized my efforts and the efforts of other people that are making a global impact. And so, how the audience can help us is one, go to the website, get some information. Number two, get Voices Against Trafficking. Courage is Contagious, the newest book. In fact, Eric Karen has a great chapter on the U.S. being complicit in labor trafficking with the defense contractors. So that's another great chapter
Wow,
to read.
good.
And then number three, if you have $5 a month, we could really use it. We're 100% volunteer driven. Every dollar we make off books or magazines or the CD all go to survivors, victims, and the programs that we are doing to make sure you get all the tools you can have to be that voice of courage.
Sounds wonderful. Andy, I appreciate you being with me tonight. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up? Any final
I just
thoughts?
I just want to say, if you are out there and you've been violated ever, or you have had any situation like this, it was not your fault. You're not alone. God does love you. He loved me enough to keep me here and bring me here. So I
Yes, he
just
did.
want people to know, no matter how old you are, no matter how long ago it happened or how recent, there is help out there for you, and we will walk with you.
Well said. And well said. Great, great show tonight. I want to thank you so much, and I encourage people to visit your website. I'm going to say goodnight to these folks off the camera, so I'm going to let you go. But listen, we'll be in touch with you. I'll get with you on your friend, because I do want to talk to him about this organ harvesting. That sort of caught my ear tonight. I'd really, in all these discussions of the years about trafficking, I'd never even put that together, but I'm interested to see what he's got to say about that. But we'll have some other guests from your organization too soon,
Absolutely.
and you as well, my friend. God bless you. And
All
I'm
right.
gonna
God bless you too. And thanks to everyone for watching.
Andy Buerger, everybody, put some fire in that house. Have a good night, friend. God bless Andy. All right, if folks, put some fire in that house for her. And I tell you what, that was a tremendous, 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 tremendous interview tonight. And if you enjoyed her and you got something out of this, please give us a thumbs up out there. And very well done. And laying your questions, we sort of have covered that already. The church um, um, situation. I mean, we just talked about that, buddy. We've already discussed that. There's no percentage. Your question has already been answered. The Super Bowl has got the highest number. The social media, the social event that is the highest trafficked event out there is the Super Bowl, and we just talked to her about that. So we did answer your question. We did answer your question. And we appreciate Andy being with us tonight. We didn't have a big crowd. Hopefully, there will be some more folks watch this on replay. We're working on getting our Podbean account up. My son is going to be with us Friday night. Him and Alyssa have got a new podcast, and the Lord willing, they're going to come on and talk to you about it. And they're on Podbean. We're trying to get on Spotify with our show. And but we encourage you to be with us. Eric is going to try. We're trying to get Eric for Thursday night, to be frank with you, and he'll sort of pick this theme up that we've talked with him with Andy about tonight. I tell you what, this is whew, it's deep stuff. It's deep stuff, and I am at a loss for words, to be frank with you, at some of this. I've heard it before. I've heard other people talk about this, but I guess Andy reinforced it tonight of the depravity of this world that we live in and how dangerous it is for our kids. And parents, I love you out there. I'm saying it to myself. I'm just grateful my kids are grown, but my grandkids are not. I got 4 precious angels, and this world that they're living in is so dangerous. And you heard her about the young lady that went to the bathroom. She was snatched just like that. They took them 11 days to find her. I don't want that to be any of your kids. I don't want that to be any of your kids and or grandkids. And I think that we just need to be diligent, more diligent than we've ever been. And Stephen, your question tonight was so good. I mean, we need to look at the signs, and if we see something that don't look right, and again, we're not looking to be fault finding boogeymans and look for an evil person under every rock. That's not what I'm trying to advocate tonight. But there are signs that you know of things that the child is not acting right around somebody. And even if the person is claiming that the child is with them and that child is fidgety, nervous, and all, that's a pretty telltale sign that something ain't right. Children are very smart, and sometimes they are in fear of these captors, they are in fear of these people. Um, the cartels are as evil a group of people as you'll ever see on this earth. But it's beyond the cartels. There's domestic trafficking. There has been labor trafficking. There has been, of course, sex trafficking, prostitution, girls being forced into prostitution, boys have been forced into prostitution. We've talked about the church issue tonight, and I just want to say this. I do not like comments that lay it all at the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church may have their problems, but the Protestant world is just as guilty. The Protestant world is just as guilty, if not worse. So it's not a Catholic or a Protestant thing. It's a church thing. It is leadership. It is a situation across the board. And I know that the Catholic Church has a lot of cleaning up they need to do, but I will tell you something, the Protestant Church does too. The Protestant Church to me is worse because we've tried to judge the Catholic Church for what they've done and allowed when we've been just as guilty of it, if not worse. Because there's just as many Protestant leaders trafficking kids and trafficking women and trafficking people in their hierarchies in these big churches as there anything that the Catholic Church could have ever done. I'm not condoning either one. I'm not giving the Catholics a pass, but I sure ain't judging them, and I'm sure not condemning them because it's both the Protestants and the Catholics that are doing this stuff. And I'll just leave it at that tonight. But it is affecting every single aspect of society. It is affecting every bit of society, folks. It's affecting our schools. It's affecting our politics. It's affecting entertainment. And there have been some good movies out. I can't think of the name of the movie with Jim Caviezel. Oh goodness, Cry Freedom, I think it was a few years ago. That told the story of a former federal agent that went into the jungles of Colombia, or maybe it was Colombia, to rescue this girl that had been basically what had happened, that they had a audition for child actresses, for child actors. He drops her off, the daddy does, at this place thinking that she's there to audition for a commercial. And all it was a trap, and all they did was take the girls and haul them off to traffickers and wound up in a jungle. He used his resources to find her. And so powerful, powerful story. There's other movies out there about this kind of stuff. But folks, we are in a dark world right now. And, all we can do is pray. We got to be diligent intercessors. I think Andi said the word intercession so much. I look at Andi Buerger tonight. She's a miracle of God. Andi could be in a nut house with everything that's happened to her. And instead, she's sounding the alarm. And I do encourage you, I'm going to go back to this website tonight, Voices Against Trafficking. I think it's voicesagainsttrafficking.com. And there's the journal. They've got, there it is right there. And I would Google this, but this line is helplines and hotlines. If you've got somebody that needs to have prevention with suicide, child abuse hotline, human trafficking resource center, Homeland Security for suspected traffickers and victims, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, National Sexual Assault Hotline, National Runaway Switchboard, the Military Helpline, Alcohol and Drug Helpline, and Youth Line. This organization does a great work, and I'm very proud that we're going to be doing more with them this year. And we're going to be attending. They're going to have their event in July. We hope to be there with them. And I told Andi tonight that she's got an open door here, and we're going to be talking to a friend of hers that has wrote a book about the Chinese hand in these human organ situations, that they're harvesting human organs from these victims, and it's dark stuff. But anyway, well, listen, no late show tonight. This is it. I don't even feel like I could do it at this point. I think, Andi, I don't want to take anything away from her show tonight. I think you learned a lot, and that's the world we live in, folks. That's just the world we live in. Anyway, we're grateful that you've been with us tonight, and if you enjoyed it, good to see old Mark Cason in the house. The Sound of Freedom. That's it, buddy. That's it. That's exactly right. The Sound of Freedom. Jim Caviezel, and we're grateful for all of you being with us tonight, and we hope that you will be back with us tomorrow night. Now, tomorrow night, we will be, again, doing faith shows. We're going to have a worship time tomorrow night and prayer time before the show. And then tomorrow night will be our Wednesday night fellowship. And then Thursday night, as of now, we're going to try to get Eric Karen on. But if Eric can't come on, we'll have something else. But my son, Brandon, will be with us one night this week. I've asked him to come on and talk about what him and Alyssa are doing with their podcast. It's a good podcast. May not be everybody's cup of tea, but it's my cup of tea because it's my son. And I'm proud of him. We're going to talk about some other things too, as it relates to the church and things and worship and things of that nature. But I love my son, proud of him. He's the father of the 4 most precious, perfect grandchildren in the entire universe, other than my wife's 2 grandchildren, our grandchildren, Jason and Addie. But they're all perfect. All 6 of them are perfect. But my Brandon and her Brandon, both Brandons are the fathers of the grandkids in the family. And but I'm proud that he's coming on the show this week to talk to you about what they're doing and what the Lord's been doing with him recently. It'll bless your heart. He's always honored to come on Dad's show, and I hope he is. I hope he is. God bless you. God bless your families, and God bless this great nation of America, folks. This is something we need to pray about. This trafficking, need to be made aware of it. Sometimes shows like this maybe just shake us back into reality. Maybe we've lost the awareness of this, and I hope tonight it has caused you to realize that we've got a problem, and we got a serious issue that we need to be praying against and be aware that it's happening right here in the good old US of A. You heard Andi tonight, probably in the top 3, folks. We're in the top 3 nations of the entire world where this stuff goes on the most, and that should shock every one of us. We're a civilized country. This should not be happening in a civilized nation. We shouldn't be killing babies in a civilized nation. We shouldn't be trafficking and men going into women's restrooms in a civilized nation. But when a nation loses its way with God, when a nation loses its compass, and a nation loses its soul, these are the things that happen. And when God takes his hand off a nation, and God gives a nation up to its lustful, sinful desires, this is what happens. We're bordering on that right now. I'm not willing to give up on America. I'm never going to give up on my nation. I love my nation. I'm an American. I love Israel tonight, but America's my home. And I don't want to see our nation go down, folks. I don't. And any true child of God don't. We've got to be praying diligently. And we need to be diligent with our kids. And I'll leave you on that note tonight. May the Lord bless you. I hope you had a good time with the show tonight. Good to see everybody tonight. And share this show out with your friends and neighbors and loved ones. And like us and subscribe. If you've not subscribed to our channel here on the news side, please do. Please subscribe. We'll be back in the morning on the Bible study on the Faith side. It's been a good week already with 2 great shows, Olivia Floyd last night and now James Akers last night and now this show tonight with Andi. Tremendous stuff, and we hope you got something out of it. God bless you out there. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. And may the Lord bless all of you. I really mean that. Be safe out there now.